Oh, for me to record, I have to have permission.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
And you all heard that. I think I'm going to have to edit that out. I am author Julie Seedorf, and this is Coffee, Clues, and Conundrums. And it will be a show about interviewing authors, having fun, and actually creating some clues and conundrums for our readers and our listeners. Now, this is my first try at this. I hope to have more, but today um, I have author Diane Weiner. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are. I appreciate that.
I have author Diane Weiner here, and she has a new book out that is called The Sinister Course. It's book number 6 in her, help me out here,
Sugarberry Fall series.
Sugarberry Fall series. I was going to say the Susan Wiles Schoolhouse series. She also has that series out, and she also has the Sarah Martin Tuned In Mystery series. And I have to tell you, I've been reading Diane's books since she started with Cozy Cat Press. Are you still with Cozy Cat Press?
Yes.
Okay. And so Diane, tell us a little bit about yourself. First of all, we're here for coffee. I have my coffee cup, and my coffee cup, every day I choose a coffee cup that says how I feel for the day.
Oh.
And today mine says it's been one of those days. There's a beautiful lady in pink laying on the floor. And I have to tell you, there's a story about almost every one of my coffee cups that I have. My friend Marlene gave me this coffee cup because she knew I was having one of those days. And actually, today I'm having one of those days too. It's kind of been an up and down day. So I chose this coffee cup. What are you drinking, Diane?
Well, since I had my 3 big mugs fulls of coffee this morning, I'm actually drinking water right now. But
you don't want that caffeine high?
Yeah. I mean, no, hardly even anymore. That's the problem. I'm so used to caffeine. It's kind of bad. But anyway, this I got in the mail from a company I used to advertise. It was just a surprise. There was no note or anything. It was just from them. So I thought that was pretty cool. It just came last week, and it says Murder's Private.
And that's one of your books.
Yes. So that was really nice.
The Susan Wiles series, right?
Yes, that's number, I think it's 4 in the Susan Wiles series.
I know we're going to talk about the Sugarberry Falls series and the Sinister Course, but let's go back a little bit because I think I met you. What year did I meet you? What year did you sign in with Cozy Cat Press?
I think it was 2014.
Okay, 2 years after I did.
Yeah.
So what gave you the idea for your Susan Wiles series?
I don't know.
Tell us about it first. Tell us about Susan, because now I have to admit this, and Diane knows this. I liked Diane's writing when I read the first couple Susan Wiles books, but I wasn't sure about Susan. And I told her that. I told her that, but I have to tell you, I love Susan now. She's one of my favorite characters. So now I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I got a lot of feedback like that about Susan, but I had to show her arc. I had to show her growing. And so now she's much more sensitive than she was in the beginning. So Susan's a newly retired teacher, which is what I would love to be, but I'm not yet. And
yeah,
her daughter's,
she's one of those wonderful teachers that we have now that's teaching virtually and soon to go back to school, actually. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, I'm teaching in the classroom and virtually actually right now. So we'll see. I've got a couple more days before we go back for the second term. But anyway, Susan is really the complete opposite of what I am. she's very gung-ho and isn't afraid to get involved and talk to people. And I'm very much shy and kind of introverted, very introverted. So she's really kind of the opposite of what I am, which is funny. In my other series, Emily is more like I am, I would say, a little more toward what I am. But I don't know, when I was teaching in an elementary school, and there was one of those teachers, and everybody's probably run into this type, that brings cupcakes for the principal to try to, so that's kind of like,
yeah.
so, and it was kind of sickening. So that sort of gave me the idea. Plus at the time I wasn't all that hot on that principal, though I had grown to like her afterwards. But so yeah, that kind of gave me the idea. And also I had been writing a dissertation, and that was work, I'll tell you. I mean, so I had set aside time every day to work on that. And every time I was writing it and having to do every little stupid detail, I was thinking, this would really be fun if I just could write, And so that, when I was done with that, then that summer I just started writing. So I went to, they had something called Mystery Writers University. I don't think they do it anymore, but it was like a 1-day intensive workshop, little workshops put together. And that's kind of when I started. So, and then I was really lucky enough, I started in the summer and I finished in December with the first book. And then while the kids were taking their final exam, sent an email off. I had Googled cozy mystery publishers and found Cozy Cat Press, and was, really thrilled to get a quick answer from Patricia Rockwell. So that's how it all began.
How hard was it for you to write someone that's so different from you?
It wasn't. I don't know. I just could picture her in my head, so it wasn't. It was kind of fun. It is fun to write her because she is different. And she's got some of the things, like I told you, being retired. And then she wound up having grandchildren, which is something that I would love to have one day too. And in the last book, her son finally got engaged when my son finally got engaged.
So your family is going along with the book. Now I have a picture of the Sinister Course up there. I don't know if you have the book with you. You can.
I don't have one yet. I don't have a hard copy yet.
You don't have a hard copy yet. Well, that's okay. This is the Sinister Course. I hope all of you are seeing it the right way, because I'm seeing it the wrong way. But I like this series. I think this is probably, well, I won't say that anymore. I thought when I read the first few books of this series that it was my favorite series of yours. But then after I read the last couple books of Susan Wiles' series, I really like Susan. I could hardly wait until the next book comes out for that one. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about the Sinister Course.
Well, the Sugarberry Falls series has a married couple as the sleuths. The woman, Emily, kind of takes the lead most of the time, but I do write some of it from the point of view of Henry, which is her husband. So they inherited a cabin up in Vermont, and they're in the mid-50s, around mid-50s. And when they moved up there, they were both going to retire. She had been a true crime, or is a true crime writer, but she was a journalist. And he was a radiologist at a hospital, and they were just going to kick back. And of course, they both still wound up working because he saw the hospital had a need, and she just couldn't not be busy. So, and they wound up adopting, well, I probably shouldn't say too much about it, but they wound up growing their family. And and the Sinister Course, there's an inn called the Outside Inn that's a major part of Sugarberry Falls, kind of like.
And I love that inn. As you all see, I mentioned I'm going to do a review also of this book on my website, and this video will go on my website and on my Facebook page. But I love the inn, and I love the things that happen with it. And it's a place where I would love to go and stay. One of the things I like about your books is I've been doing a lot of reading lately for reviews for different people. One of the things I like about your books is the fact that it doesn't take us long to get into the murder. Sometimes I pick up a book and I keep looking for the murder, and there's all these details, and it goes on, and finally the 6th chapter is something we get to the murder, where your books and the chapters pick it up right away so that you want to keep reading. And I will say this, tell us about her books, because she does a little bit of the same thing that I do at the end of the book, and it's called a clue. what kind of clue do you leave at the end of your books, Diane?
Oh, like for the next book, you mean?
Yes, I
Well,
love that. And I do know that our editor is not real thrilled about that because I forget which Fuchsia, Minnesota book it was that I wrote. And I ended it and I sent it to Patricia and she goes, "You can't end it like that." And I go, "Yes, I can." And she goes, "No, you can't end it like that." And I said, "Well, I'm going to." And she said, "Well, you need to end it a little bit happier." And I'm thinking, but I don't want to end it happier. And then finally I changed one sentence and she accepted that. And then she came back and said, "So tell me, who is it?" And I go, "No, I'm not telling you." She goes, "I'm the publisher. You can tell me." "No, you have to wait till my next book." And um, in this book particularly, and I guess I didn't look back in your other books, but you have a chapter from the next book or
Oh,
a peek
that's
into the next book. So that's kind of your clue. And how long, where are you at with that as far as getting that one out?
I am so glad you asked because
I
I
asked.
just finished my first draft.
Woo!
I'm about to give it to my husband for part number 1 for him to go through.
And that's something to ask you because I have not had a book out in a year, and part of that is a lot of the things that's been going on in my own personal life, and now I've got 4 of them going, and I'm pretty
Oh,
well into them. You have how many books do you have out? Your other series, and I think I did read the book in your Sarah Barton series before it was
yeah.
published. And so I have to get that book so I can read the whole thing because I read it before it was all finalized and things like that.
Yeah.
How many books do you have out with between all the 3 series?
I have 18 out right now.
Wow. And how do you do that? I'm sure all these people at home are thinking, okay, I have a job. She has a job. I have a family. She has a family. Where do you find time to write?
Well, I'm very much of a morning person. And luckily, I'm teaching in a middle school, so I don't have to be there until 9 o'clock. So I wake up at, say, 5:30, not because I ever set an alarm, but just because
I
that's
do
me.
that too. I'm awake early. Yes.
Yeah, so I write. It's nice. Well, it's quiet anyway now. It's only me and my husband now in the house. But, I wake up, I eat breakfast, and I write until it's time to go to school or get ready to school to get
So
into the
do
shower and
you
get
do
ready.
that every day?
Pretty much. I also like to run, so I try to at least 1 or 2 of those days go and run instead. And so that's kind of my routine. It's always like a choice. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, oh man, I want to write, but I know I need to run better because I've only run once this week. So it's always like a struggle. I put a lot of pressure, I think, on myself with that kind of thing. But
I have to tell our listeners or that we're on opposite ends for the new year. I'm in the cold and Diane's in the warm. So what are your New Year's plans? Are you celebrating? Are you staying in?
my husband and I are about to start, let's see, we worked backwards, but we're starting season 2 now, working backwards of the Great British Baking Show. So that's our plan
Oh,
tonight. We're going to
yes,
get
yes.
Chinese food and watch that.
That sounds good. I'm right into the final season of CSI. Over the months, I started with 1, and I forget how many seasons there are, but there's been a lot. I've been on it for months, and I, for some reason, like I don't write crime, but I love these crime shows. So I have to
Yeah.
ask you, um, some people switch genres from your cozy. Have you ever thought about going to something more serious? I had an interview with an author this morning that used to write Harlequin romance, and now I did not even know she had some more heavy duty books out there because she used a pen name. And I'm anxious to read her books. So have you ever thought about branching out and doing anything different, or are you pretty happy with the cozy mystery?
Well, I have one that I have on hold, actually, that's already written, and I meant it to be more of a suspense and domestic suspense and whatever, but it just came out a little too cozy. I don't know. It's really hard, hard for me to break out of that. So
Yeah, I
I'm
get
going to
that.
go back through and take some stuff out, but it'll eventually be probably a fourth series. The book is done, but I need to take out the few parts of it that wouldn't be, you know, appropriate, that are a little
Now,
too.
why do you think that? I'm curious, and the reason I asked that is my last book, A Small Town Can Be Murder, which actually I think is the best book I've written, started out with someone pulling a thread around his finger and the blood dropping down and thinking, aha, what would happen if this was someone's neck? And it actually is still in the book, but I moved it from the front to the back. And my book is kind of cozy, but I'm told it's more of a mystery. But for the very same reason, I really had thoughts about changing all of that. So, do you really want to take all that out? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well,
What?
I guess it's really just, I would say it's probably because it's like my husband's always like, you know, make it more suspenseful, blah, 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 you know, like it's cozy, but it's really the topic, because in that book, someone, a young girl had gotten raped by a teacher. So it's really the topic more than the gore. I still didn't put a whole lot of gore in there.
Yeah.
But what I did have was my usual cast of, you know, friendly characters to help her out. So I think that's where it maybe went a little cozy, you know, like the rapport between her and her colleagues. She works at a college. And so I think that's the part I would have to, you know.
I agree with that because in my book, it deals with teenage pregnancy in the 50s and also spousal abuse. And it's not graphic, but the subject is touched on, it's weaved into the story. So again, just like with you, I wasn't sure. It's not really a cozy, but yet it's a cozy because it takes place in a small town and the camaraderie between the characters, and it's that fine line. And I think as writers, sometimes it's hard because in a way I feel viewers or sometimes reviewers that are not just straight cozy reviewers look at cozies kind of the way people look at soap operas.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, looking at a soap opera, I've been watching soap operas since I was a little kid. Oh my
Oh, me
God, I
too.
watch soap operas. I can't believe it. But anyway, for me, it's more about the story and the writing and I see work when I see those writers or those characters on screen because they have a lot of dialogue every day and all of that. And to me, it's like, how can you not see the work that goes into this? And the same with cozy mysteries. I have to think we put as much work into those mysteries and sweat and tears as do the thrillers, but maybe we don't do maybe the type of research we do because it isn't as gory, isn't quite as respected. Um, Just a thought. What do you think?
Yeah, I know what you mean, definitely. And sometimes, you see the covers, and I have to admit, like we were in Barnes and Noble yesterday, and I was like, oh, it looks like kind of like a comic book,
Yeah.
So I hate to say that, but I tend to go to the ones that don't look like the characters are total, are flat characters that have a little more depth to them. And
Yes.
that's what I've tried to write in my series too. So it definitely is a lot of work. I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to keep my mind really young because it is so much work working all those clues and making sure everything fits. And oh my gosh. And I really am very I don't want to disappoint the reader and not have the clues there so they can try to solve the mystery, But yeah, it's a lot of work. I think it's probably more work than a thriller if you ask me, because they're linear,
So there goes to the conundrum part of my program. What is the biggest conundrum you have about writing?
Biggest.
Or promoting or anything to do or with your life as it pertains to an author, being an author?
I think the biggest thing is I really wish I could just sit home and do this full time. It's really hard. I have at least another 3.5 years before I can, retire with a pension. And it's just like the time factor. Sometimes when I'm home, like in the
Such
summer,
a youngster.
I don't know. I don't even know if I can make it another few years sometimes. But so that's the biggest thing. And there's so many things I want to do that I don't have time for. And I was thinking about like my New Year's resolutions. Like I really want to do an audiobook. I know I started it way back, and then the person who was going to be the narrator had a family issue, and it just, I wound up dropping it. So that's something I would really like to try to do, an audiobook,
All my books except for Granny Brick's a Bandit and A Small Town Can Be Murder are in audiobook. To me, that was just the easiest
Really?
thing ever. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough. I had to have two different ones for the Granny series and for my Brilliant and series because the person quit. So I've got the same narrator for 4 of the Granny series, but the new one I got, she's wonderful too, and the way they do the voices and all of that. For me, it was easy. They just ran. I contracted them, sent them the book, and what took me the longest was having to listen to my own book. But they did a wonderful job. I always think we should do audiobooks before we do print because they find things in there or you hear things in there from someone else's voice that's like, oh, maybe I should have changed that. But they ran with it. They sent me the scripts and we published it, and that was it. And maybe I'm not picky enough, but they did such a good job that I was not picky, and I'm just thinking about doing the next 2. And I went through ACX because that was just easy. And it's nice getting that little check every month. But yeah, it wasn't, you must have had a rough thing because usually when you contract them, and I'm sure with you, they have so much time to complete this. And I've not been let down. In fact, one of my narrators or producers, one of my other friends, Pat Dennis, hired them to do her book, and she was really happy with the way they did it too. So we'll have to talk because that's a good venture, and I was thinking I need to pursue that too with the next 2 books because people are asking. So
I know, and believe it or not, I have a blind reader that just listens to my books on the Kindle sound, and I feel bad. I think there are people, and even my own daughter-in-law doesn't like to read books, but she listens to books at work and whatever. So there are a lot of people out there that I think it would appeal to. I went to a workshop one time though, and the woman who was talking about audiobooks was saying how hard it was to match it up, like so that where the page was exactly the same spot as where the speaking was. And I think that kind of scared me off because those little details like that drive me nuts. But
and maybe I'm not picky enough. I don't know, but no. The other thing about audiobooks too, they are also can be available. They make it available on for your libraries. So if your library buys it, they can rent it. So that's just a thought. So I suppose tell us what you want readers to take away from our conversation besides the fact that we're having coffee, and it's been a nice conversation. Actually, I don't know if I told our readers or listeners that Diane and I have known each other for quite a while, but this is the first time we've actually been face to face, even virtually, and so much fun. We have to do it again.
I know, that's great. I was really looking forward to that. Like I said, I've seen you on Facebook Live a few times, but I've never communicated with you. So and you've been such a help. You've been so wonderful about reading my books for me ahead of time, beta reading. You've been wonderful about that. So
that's a joy. But we do communicate other ways besides we're just talking face by face. So Diane, I would like to know, and I didn't prepare her for this. What's your favorite color?
My favorite what?
Color.
Color. Probably red.
And what part of you is in your books?
The part of Susan that's very family oriented and that's very close to her husband Mike and worries about his health, that's very close to me. With Emily, she's a vegetarian and she runs. That's kind of like me.
Are you a vegetarian?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I have to learn more about that from you off camera here.
So those are probably the parts, and they're both happily married in both series. The one that's different is the Sarah Barron mysteries, which that'll be my next venture as soon as I get this one edited and off, is to go back to that because I only have one book in that series, but that's a younger.
I have to reread that book because, again, I think you sent it to me before it was all established, but I remember liking it. So I'm going to have to get that one and read that. So where can we find you? Where can we find your books?
I have a website that's just Diane Weiner Author. So that's pretty easy. And I have a Facebook page, also Diane Weiner Author. And I'm on Twitter, but not really very much. It's Diane Weiner Auth on Twitter. So, and I have a newsletter. So if you go to the website, you can sign up to get my newsletter. So, and I usually send it out like once a month. And sometimes I have little contests or, like this, what I've been doing recently is anybody who writes a review, I do like a raffle and then they can win one of whatever books they want that I've written,
Oh, that's a great idea. So tell us where we can buy your book.
Amazon, really, or you can get it from my website, but it's through Amazon anyway. So yeah, just go to Amazon, type in my name or type in Susan Wiles or any of that. And I'm on Goodreads also. Okay. And BookBub. So.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you all for being patient. I know there's a way to put all those things up that she just said, but I will put them in the comments when I post this video. I will learn, teaching an old person new tricks, but thank you for joining us for Coffee, Clues, and Conundrums. And I wish you a happy New Year, Diane. I wish you a happy New Year too. And
you too. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Julie. Like I said, you've been such a wonderful help all along, since I first met you. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And we'll see you the next time I record.
Okay.